5 days after doctors diagnosed Michael Bennett with aggressive lymphoma, his wife Vanessa slid divorce papers across the kitchen table while he was still wearing his hospital wristband. Then he opened their joint bank account and realized she had already taken almost everything. 3 years later, at their daughter Chloe's graduation in Colorado Springs, Vanessa arrived smiling beside a brand new Tesla with a giant red bow on top. But before the day ended, Chloe would say something in front of hundreds of people that would leave her mother standing speechless in the summer heat. Michael Bennett remembered strange details from terrible days. Not the important things, never the important things. He couldn't clearly remember half the medical terms the oncologist used that afternoon inside UC Health Memorial Hospital Central. Aggressive lymphoma, chemotherapy, survival rates, treatment schedule. The words blurred together after the first 10 minutes anyway. But he remembered the smell of burnt coffee when he walked into his kitchen later that night. He remembered the ticking clock above the stove. And he remembered the exact sound Vanessa's fingernails made against the granite countertop while she waited for him to sit down. March in Colorado Springs still carried winter in the air. The windows above the sink fogged lightly from the cold outside. Michael's body already felt exhausted, though he hadn't even started treatment yet. Fear alone could make a man tired. All he wanted was to hear his wife say they would get through it together. Instead, he saw divorce papers. A yellow legal pad sat beside them, neatly organized, like somebody preparing taxes instead of ending a 22-year marriage. Vanessa looked up calmly from the kitchen table. Too calmly. "You already talked to a lawyer?" Michael asked quietly. Vanessa folded her hands together. "Michael, we need to be realistic." Realistic. He hated that word immediately. He slowly pulled out a chair and sat down. The hospital wristband still circled his arm beneath the sleeve of his flannel shirt. He noticed Vanessa glance at it briefly before looking away. "One round of chemo could destroy us financially," she said. Michael stared at her, unsure whether he'd heard correctly. "Not, how are you feeling? Not, we'll fight this together. Just money." "I have insurance," he answered weakly. "You have self-employed insurance," Vanessa corrected. "That's not the same thing." Technically, she wasn't wrong. Michael owned a small HVAC repair business. The insurance premiums alone nearly killed him every month. And somehow, the policy still covered almost nothing useful. But hearing his wife discuss his cancer like a failed business investment made his stomach twist harder than the diagnosis itself. "I'm going to survive this," he said. Vanessa looked down at the table for a moment before meeting his eyes again. "And if you don't?" The room went completely still. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked softly. Michael instantly knew Chloe was listening from the staircase. Vanessa knew too. She didn't lower her voice. "I'm 46 years old," she continued carefully. "I'm not spending the next few years watching somebody slowly die while everything we built disappears with him." Michael felt something inside his chest crack open. Not loudly, quietly, like ice breaking beneath water. "You planned this already," he whispered. Vanessa said nothing. That silence answered everything. Michael grabbed his phone from the counter with shaking hands and opened the banking app. The checking account balance loaded slowly. $4,112. His breathing stopped. 3 days earlier, the account had held almost $90,000. "What did you do?" Vanessa exhaled impatiently now that the ugly part had arrived. "I moved my share before treatment starts draining everything." "Your share?" It was the responsible decision. Michael scrolled through the transactions in disbelief. Transfer after transfer after transfer. Then he saw the memo line attached to the final withdrawal. "This should help with a few treatments." That hurt worse than the divorce papers. Not because of the money. Because after 22 years together, his wife had reduced his survival to sarcasm. Movement appeared behind him. Chloe Bennett stood halfway down the staircase wearing gray sweatpants and an oversized hoodie from middle school volleyball camp. Her face looked pale. "Mom," she whispered. Vanessa closed her eyes briefly, like this part annoyed her. Chloe, go upstairs. No. Her voice cracked. Michael looked at his daughter and suddenly saw not a teenager, but the little girl who used to run into his arms during thunderstorms. Dad, sit, Chloe said. How can you leave right now? Vanessa stood abruptly from the table. And I'm supposed to sacrifice my entire future because of it? Silence filled the kitchen. Michael stared at his wife like he didn't recognize her anymore. Honestly, he didn't. And judging from the horror in Chloe's eyes, neither did their daughter. Vanessa moved out 3 days later. Not quietly either. Michael stood in the driveway of their suburban home in Colorado Springs, watching movers carry expensive furniture into a black SUV, while spring wind rattled the dry trees along the sidewalk. The entire thing felt surreal, like he was watching strangers dismantle someone else's marriage instead of his own. Chloe sat on the front porch steps beside him, wearing headphones she wasn't actually listening to. Neither of them spoke much. Around noon, a white BMW X6 pulled into the driveway. Jason Mercer stepped out smiling like he was arriving at a backyard barbecue instead of a collapsing family. He was tall, athletic, overly tanned, with perfect white teeth and the kind of expensive haircut that needed maintenance every 6 days. "Hey, man," Jason called casually. Michael just stared at him. Jason shoved his hands into the pockets of his designer jacket. Sorry things got messy. Messy. Michael noticed rich people loved soft words for ugly behavior. Cancer became a difficult season. Abandonment became protecting your peace. Selfishness became prioritizing happiness. Meanwhile, Michael still woke up every morning with tumors growing inside his body. Jason nodded toward the house. Vanessa's just trying to survive too, you know? Michael looked at him for several long seconds before answering. She survived pretty fast. For the first time, Jason's smile tightened slightly. Behind them, Chloe stood up from the porch. You should leave, she said coldly. Jason blinked, clearly surprised she'd spoken. I'm not talking to you, kiddo. My name is Chloe, she snapped, and you should leave. Vanessa appeared in the doorway carrying a garment bag. Chloe, she warned sharply. But Chloe's eyes never left Jason. You knew he was sick. The driveway went silent. Vanessa crossed her arms defensively. This situation is more complicated than you understand. No, Chloe replied quietly. It's actually really simple. Michael saw something flicker across Vanessa's face then. Not guilt exactly. Annoyance. Like empathy had become inconvenient. 2 weeks later, chemotherapy began. Michael quickly learned oncology centers had their own kind of silence. Not peaceful silence, heavy silence. The kind built from fear, exhaustion, and people pretending they weren't terrified. Inside the infusion room at UC Health Memorial Hospital Central, warmed blankets sat folded beside recliner chairs, while muted televisions played daytime game shows nobody truly watched. Michael hated every second of it. Across from him, an elderly husband gently rubbed lotion onto his wife's hands while she slept during treatment. Another couple quietly shared headphones listening to old country music together. Michael sat alone, pretending to scroll through work emails because he couldn't stand the pity in the nurse's eyes. Chloe wasn't allowed inside most treatment sessions because of visitor rules, but every time Michael finished chemo, she was waiting downstairs in the parking garage. Always. Sometimes with coffee, sometimes with sandwiches. Once with the ridiculous hand-drawn sign that read, "Congratulations, you survived another round of poison." That one actually made him laugh. The treatments destroyed him physically, almost immediately. Food tasted wrong. His joints hurt constantly. By the second week, even climbing stairs exhausted him. Still, bills kept coming. So did customers. Colorado summers didn't care if a man had lymphoma. Air conditioners still broke. Families still needed repairs. Michael forced himself back into work between treatments because the alternative was losing everything. One afternoon, he nearly collapsed inside a cramped attic while replacing a compressor unit. Sweat poured down his neck as dizziness hit him hard enough to blur his vision. "You okay up there?" a homeowner shouted from below. "Yeah," Michael lied automatically. But when he climbed back down the ladder, his hand shook so badly he dropped a wrench onto the driveway. That night, Chloe found him asleep at the kitchen table, beside unpaid invoices and hospital paperwork. His untouched dinner sat cold beside him. She quietly covered him with a blanket without waking him. Then she stood there, watching her father sleep. For the first time in her life, Chloe realized something terrifying. Her father was trying very hard not to die, and he was doing it almost completely alone. Cancer treatment changed time. Days stopped feeling normal. Weeks blurred together into hospital visits, prescription bottles, insurance calls, and exhaustion so deep it felt permanent. By early summer, Michael barely recognized his own life anymore. The house in Colorado Springs no longer sounded the same without Vanessa there. No loud television upstairs. No arguments about grocery lists or vacation plans. Just quiet. Too much quiet. Sometimes Michael would wake up at 3 in the morning, convinced he heard her footsteps in the hallway. Then reality settled back in again. Gone. The chemotherapy hit harder with every round. His hair thinned quickly. Food tasted metallic. His hands constantly tingled from nerve pain, and some mornings his legs felt weak enough to scare him. But the worst part wasn't physical. It was humiliation. Michael had spent his entire adult life being dependable. Customers trusted him. Employees relied on him. Chloe grew up believing her father could fix almost anything. Now he forgot simple things. One afternoon he placed laundry into the washing machine and completely forgot about it for 3 days until the entire basement smelled like mildew. Another night he burned grilled cheese sandwiches because he wandered away from the stove halfway through cooking and fell asleep on the couch. "Dad?" Michael woke suddenly to Chloe standing over him holding a spatula. The kitchen's smoking. He blinked several times, trying to clear the fog from his brain. "Oh," he muttered weakly. "Right." Chloe quietly opened windows while scraping blackened sandwiches into the trash. Neither of them mentioned it afterward. That became their new routine, pretending things were normal whenever possible. But Chloe noticed everything. She noticed Michael sitting down slowly because standing hurt. She noticed him secretly wincing while climbing stairs. She noticed how he checked the mailbox with visible anxiety now because every envelope probably contained another medical bill. Most of all, she noticed how hard he worked to hide his fear from her, which somehow made it worse. By July, Michael realized there was no way he could continue paying Chloe's private school tuition alone. He sat in the garage one humid afternoon, staring at his old Tracker Pro Team 175, parked beside shelves of tools and camping gear. He'd owned that boat almost 12 years. Some of Chloe's happiest childhood memories happened on nearby lakes during summer weekends. Fishing at sunrise, fast food burgers afterward, country music playing through cheap speakers while Chloe laughed every time Michael missed a cast. Now he needed the money. The buyer arrived the next morning. A middle-aged man from Pueblo with mirrored sunglasses and a polite smile. Michael signed the paperwork mechanically while trying not to think too hard about what the sale meant. The man hooked the trailer to his truck and drove away slowly. Michael stood alone in the garage, watching the empty space where the boat had been. Then, unexpectedly, he started crying. Not small tears. Real ones. The kind that shook his chest painfully. Because the boat wasn't really about fishing. It was proof that his old life had existed once. Behind him, he heard movement. Chloe stood quietly near the doorway, holding 2 grocery bags. She didn't say anything at first. Michael quickly wiped his eyes, embarrassed. "Sorry," he muttered. Chemo messes with emotions. Chloe set the grocery bags down gently. "No," she said softly. "Mom did that." Michael looked at her in surprise. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Chloe walked forward and wrapped her arms tightly around him. Michael hugged her back carefully, suddenly aware of how much taller she'd gotten during the past year. "I'm trying, kiddo," he whispered. "I know. I hate that you have to see all this. Chloe pulled back enough to look directly at him. I don't care about any of this stuff, she said firmly. The house, the money, the boat, none of it. Michael looked away. But I care about you staying. That sentence nearly broke him. That night, exhaustion hit hard after treatment. Michael fell asleep on the couch with the television still glowing quietly in the background. Sometime after midnight, he woke slightly as someone pulled a blanket over his shoulders. Chloe. She tucked the edges around him gently, the same way he used to do for her when thunderstorms scared her as a child. I'm sorry, Michael mumbled, half awake. Chloe looked down at him for a long moment. Then she smiled sadly. I'm not going anywhere, Dad. For the first time in months, Michael finally believed someone meant it. 3 years passed slowly. Not dramatically. No inspiring movie montage. No magical moment where life suddenly became beautiful again after cancer. Mostly, survival looked like paperwork, exhaustion, early mornings, and learning how to keep moving while permanently tired. By late 2022, Michael Bennett's cancer was officially in remission. People loved that word. Remission. They said it with bright smiles like it erased everything that came before it. It didn't. Michael still felt damage everywhere. His hands tingled constantly from nerve issues caused by chemotherapy. His knees hurt during cold weather. Some mornings, climbing the stairs inside the house in Colorado Springs left him breathing harder than it should have. Worst of all, every follow-up scan terrified him. 3 days before each appointment, anxiety settled into his chest like concrete. Chloe noticed that too. She noticed everything. Without ever discussing it openly, they developed little traditions around scan days. Chloe always brought coffee and pastries from a bakery near North Academy Boulevard. Doctors legally can't deliver bad news while people are eating cinnamon rolls, she declared one morning while handing Michael a paper bag. Michael laughed despite himself. That's absolutely not true. You don't know that. Those mornings became sacred to him. Tiny pieces of normal life stitched together between fear. Meanwhile, Vanessa existed mostly through occasional text messages and expensive gifts that felt emotionally empty. One Christmas, she mailed Chloe a designer handbag worth more than Michael spent on groceries in 2 months. Another year, she sent concert tickets to an artist Chloe didn't even listen to. The gifts always arrived with short notes written like captions on social media posts. Proud of you. Keep shining. Love you always. No phone calls. No real conversations. Just money. Like guilt could be outsourced through online shopping. One afternoon, Chloe opened a birthday package at the kitchen counter and pulled out a monogrammed makeup bag. The initial stitched across the front read, C-E-B. Chloe stared at it for several seconds. My middle name isn't Evelyn, she said flatly. Michael looked up from the sink. What? It's Elaine. Silence filled the kitchen. Then Chloe quietly tossed the makeup bag back into the box. Michael wanted to defend Vanessa somehow. Part of him still tried sometimes. She's probably busy, he offered weakly. Chloe looked at him like he'd said something ridiculous. She forgot my actual name, Dad. Michael had no response to that. Jason Mercer made things worse. The man behaved like a motivational podcast that somehow gained human form. Every conversation centered around wealth, mindset, luxury, or high-value living. At one point, Jason started posting fake business advice videos online beside rented sports cars. Poor people stay poor because they think emotionally, he announced in one clip while standing next to a Lamborghini that definitely didn't belong to him. Chloe watched the video at breakfast one morning and nearly spit out orange juice laughing. The comments are destroying him, she said. Michael leaned closer to read. Bro, this car is from a rental company. Another comment simply read, Sir, you sell protein powder on Instagram. Even Michael laughed at that one. But Jason crossed the line during Chloe's senior year. Her school uploaded professional senior portraits online one Friday afternoon. Chloe wore a simple navy blue dress, standing beneath autumn trees with sunlight catching her hair. The photos were elegant, natural. By evening, Jason had commented publicly beneath them. "Looking gorgeous, kiddo." Michael nearly dropped his phone reading it. "What kind of middle-aged man comments fire emojis under a teenage girl's photo?" he muttered. Chloe physically cringed from embarrassment. Vanessa defended him immediately, of course. "That's just Jason being supportive." "No," Chloe replied coldly during the call. "That's Jason needing attention." The conversation ended badly after that. Still, Chloe kept trying harder with her mother than Vanessa deserved. Michael noticed that too. Children almost always wanted permission to love both parents. Even hurt children. Even abandoned ones. Chloe twisted herself emotionally, trying to preserve some version of her mother that no longer existed. Then came the acceptance letter. It arrived on a rainy Thursday afternoon, tucked between grocery coupons and utility bills. Colorado State University. Engineering program. Full acceptance. Chloe opened the envelope, standing in the kitchen while frozen pizzas cooked in the oven behind her. The second tears filled her eyes. Michael already knew. "Oh my God," she whispered repeatedly. Michael hugged her so tightly she laughed through the tears. That night after Chloe went upstairs, Michael sat alone in the garage, holding the acceptance letter in both hands. Not because Colorado State was famous. Not because engineering guaranteed money. But because during the worst nights of chemo, there had been moments when he honestly didn't believe he would survive long enough to see this day happen. And somehow, against every expectation, he had made it here, beside her. Vanessa started calling more often after the college acceptance letter arrived. Not before. Not during chemotherapy. Not during the nights Michael could barely stand long enough to shower. Only after Chloe got into Colorado State University. Michael noticed that immediately. So did Chloe. The first video call came on a Sunday evening, while Michael grilled cheap hamburgers on the back patio behind their house in Colorado Springs. Spring air drifted through the neighborhood, carrying the smell of fresh-cut grass and charcoal smoke. Chloe looked down at her phone screen and sighed. "It's Mom." Michael flipped a burger carefully. "You don't have to answer if you don't want to." Chloe hesitated, then answered anyway. Vanessa appeared smiling brightly from what looked like a luxury hotel rooftop somewhere downtown. City lights reflected behind her, while a glass of wine sat near her elbow. "Look at my college girl," Vanessa said dramatically. Chloe smiled politely. "Hi, Mom." "You look beautiful." "Oh my God, I'm still emotional about Colorado State." Michael stayed near the grill, pretending not to listen. Then Jason suddenly leaned into the frame, wearing a fitted black t-shirt and expensive watch. "There's the future engineer," he announced loudly. Chloe visibly stiffened. Jason pointed toward the camera like he was delivering a motivational speech online. "You're entering a whole new level now. Successful people build successful circles." Michael almost burned the burgers, rolling his eyes. Vanessa laughed too hard at Jason's comment. Then she shifted the conversation exactly where Michael expected. "Well," she said carefully, "Jason and I have been talking." That sentence alone exhausted Michael. "We want to help with school," Vanessa continued. "Tuition, housing, books, whatever Chloe needs." Silence followed. Chloe looked uncomfortable immediately. Jason smiled proudly beside Vanessa like he expected applause. "Investing in winners matters," he added. Michael focused very hard on flipping burgers. Part of him hated hearing them discuss money like they were buying influence. Another part of him quietly panicked because college was expensive, and he honestly didn't know how he would afford everything alone. Medical debt still followed him everywhere. His HVAC business survived, but barely. Some months, he still chose which bills could wait another week. Chloe finally spoke carefully. "You don't have to do that." "Nonsense," Vanessa replied quickly. "We're family." Michael almost laughed out loud, hearing the word family after everything that had happened. But Chloe didn't laugh. She looked tired. Emotionally tired. After another few minutes of awkward conversation, the call finally ended. The patio fell quiet, except for sizzling burgers and distant traffic. Chloe sat at the outdoor table, slowly spinning her phone across the wood surface. Michael carried the plates over. "You okay?" Chloe shrugged without looking up. "Do you think money fixes things?" Michael paused. The question sounded simple, but he knew it wasn't. He sat down across from her carefully, his joints aching like they always did after long workdays now. "No," he answered honestly. "I think money makes people feel less guilty sometimes." Chloe nodded slowly. "That's what it feels like." For a while, neither of them spoke. Birds chirped somewhere beyond the fence line, while evening sunlight faded across the neighborhood. Then Chloe looked up again. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "If they pay for college," she hesitated, "would that bother you?" Michael immediately shook his head. "Absolutely not. But after everything Mom did—" "Chloe," Michael interrupted gently, "you don't owe me loyalty at the expense of your future." She stared at him quietly. Michael forced a small smile. "You worked too hard for this opportunity." That part was true. But privately, the situation twisted something painful inside him. Because despite everything Vanessa had done, Michael still found himself trying to protect Chloe from choosing sides completely. Maybe that was stupid. Maybe it was leftover love. Or maybe parents simply kept protecting their children long after it stopped making sense. Over the following weeks, Vanessa became increasingly involved in graduation planning. Too involved. Suddenly, she wanted restaurant reservations, professional photos, family dinners, coordinated seating arrangements. Jason somehow made everything worse. "We should really make graduation unforgettable," he announced during one phone call. "Big moments deserve big energy." Michael already hated whatever that sentence meant. Then Jason added casually, "I may have a surprise planned." The way he said it made Michael instantly uneasy. Beside him at the kitchen counter, Chloe looked uneasy too. But neither of them understood yet how ugly things were about to become. Because for the first time in years, Vanessa Bennett wanted front-row access to the family she once abandoned. Graduation day began at 5 o'clock in the morning, with Michael Bennett standing inside a grocery store parking lot ironing his dress shirt in the front seat of his aging Toyota Highlander. It wasn't a metaphor. It was real. The shirt had looked perfectly fine hanging on the closet door the night before, but somewhere between home and downtown Colorado Springs, it transformed into something resembling crumpled tissue paper. So there Michael stood outside a 24-hour supermarket, balancing a travel iron against the center console while eating a stale blueberry muffin from a gas station. Cancer had changed his body more than he liked admitting. The suit jacket hung loosely around his shoulders now. He'd lost nearly 30 pounds during treatment and never fully gained it back. His face looked sharper in the rearview mirror, older somehow. But he was alive. That mattered. By 6:30, parking lots around Broadmoor World Arena were already packed with families carrying flowers, balloons, cameras, and coffee cups. Parents hurried across sidewalks while grandparents struggled with folding chairs, and teenagers pretended not to care about the biggest morning of their lives. Michael arrived early because Chloe deserved good seats. After everything she had carried during the past 3 years, he refused to watch her graduation from the back row. Inside the arena, cool air blasted through crowded hallways filled with nervous energy and perfume. Michael found seats near the front and texted Chloe immediately. Already inside, Section B, front row like a psycho parent. A minute later, she replied, "You absolutely are a psycho parent." Michael smiled for the first time that morning. 10 minutes later, Chloe appeared near the aisle, wearing her graduation gown with blue honor cords hanging neatly across the front. Michael's chest tightened instantly. There was something emotional about seeing your child dress for graduation that no parent could fully prepare for. One second they were kids leaving cereal bowls in the sink. The next they stood in front of you looking ready to enter adulthood. "You got here insanely early, didn't you?" Chloe asked. "I wanted good seats." "You wanted first seats." "Correct." She laughed softly. The sound relaxed him immediately. For 20 peaceful minutes, everything felt normal. Then, Vanessa arrived. Michael smelled Jason's cologne before he saw him. Some expensive, overpowering scent hit the air like a department store exploded nearby. Vanessa entered the arena wearing a fitted white designer pantsuit and oversized sunglasses, even though they were indoors. Jason walked beside her, filming everything on his phone already. "Big day," Jason announced loudly to nobody in particular. Several nearby parents turned around immediately. Chloe's shoulders visibly tightened. Vanessa swept toward them, smiling dramatically. "There's my graduate," she exclaimed, pulling Chloe into a long hug that somehow felt more performative than emotional. Jason immediately shoved the phone camera closer. "My stepdaughter's graduating today," he announced proudly to his live stream viewers. Chloe physically flinched at the word stepdaughter. Michael noticed instantly. Vanessa finally turned toward him. For half a second, something uncomfortable flickered across her face while looking at him. Maybe guilt. Maybe surprise. Michael wasn't sure. "You look healthy," she said finally. Healthy. Not good. Not happy. Healthy. Like he was a rescue dog recovering from surgery. "Morning, Vanessa," Michael answered calmly. Jason immediately extended his hand. "No hard feelings, brother." Michael looked at the hand, then at Jason, then back at the hand. He ignored it completely. To Jason's credit, he recovered quickly. "Life's short, man," he said with a fake laugh. Michael stared at him for several seconds before replying. "Apparently." Beside them, Chloe nearly choked, trying not to laugh into her coffee cup. That bought Michael about 60 seconds of peace before Jason started filming again. He paced around the seating area, narrating everything like a social media influencer documenting a celebrity event. "Success leaves clues, people," he told the livestream dramatically. Michael had absolutely no idea what that meant. Meanwhile, Vanessa continued making tiny comments disguised as compliments. "Chloe definitely inherited my ambition. She's always been meant for bigger things. Thankfully, some people planned ahead financially for college." Every sentence carried hidden sharpness beneath it. Little cuts. Little reminders. Michael ignored all of them. Until Jason suddenly grinned and said, "Oh, wait until you guys see the surprise outside." Something about the excitement in his voice made Michael instantly uneasy. Across from him, Chloe looked uneasy too. And for the first time all morning, Michael got the strange feeling that graduation day was about to become something far bigger than a ceremony. The graduation ceremony itself passed in a blur for Michael Bennett. Names echoed through the arena. Families cheered loudly from every direction. Camera flashes burst constantly beneath the bright lights inside Broadmoor World Arena. But mostly, Michael remembered watching Chloe walk across the stage. That moment stayed frozen in his mind forever. Her blue honor cord swayed lightly against her graduation gown while she smiled toward the crowd searching for him in the audience. Michael stood so quickly clapping that his knee almost locked painfully beneath him. For one overwhelming second, emotion completely stole his breath. 3 years earlier, he had honestly believed cancer would kill him before this day arrived. Yet somehow he was still here, watching his daughter graduate with honors. Beside him, Vanessa screamed louder than everyone nearby combined. Jason filmed vertically on his phone while shouting, "That's my girl." A woman sitting nearby visibly cringed hearing him. After the ceremony, families flooded outside into the warm Colorado afternoon, carrying flowers, balloons, and gift bags. The parking lot buzzed with excitement and chaos. Teenagers posed for photos, while parents wiped tears pretending they weren't emotional. Michael stayed slightly behind the others, holding Chloe's bouquet carefully in one hand. Honestly, he just wanted the day to stay peaceful for a little longer. That lasted maybe 30 seconds. "Everybody this way!" Jason shouted dramatically. Michael looked up. Parked directly beside the curb sat a brand new black Tesla Model S Plaid with an enormous red ribbon stretched across the hood. Several nearby families immediately stopped walking to stare. Phones appeared instantly. Jason spread his arms proudly, like a game show host presenting the grand prize. Only the best for our future engineer, he announced. Vanessa smiled beside him with obvious satisfaction. Chloe stopped walking completely. Michael saw her expression flatten in a way he recognized immediately. Not excitement, not happiness, discomfort. Jason tossed a keycard lightly into the air and caught it again. 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, he bragged. This thing's an absolute monster. Several teenagers nearby started recording. Michael suddenly became painfully aware of his aging Toyota Highlander parked 3 rows away with faded paint and a cracked rear taillight. Part of him hated that feeling instantly. Another part quietly wondered whether Chloe should accept the car. College was expensive. Medical debt still followed him everywhere. The HVAC business barely stayed stable during slow seasons. A luxury car obviously wasn't necessary, but financially powerful people could offer opportunities he simply couldn't. That truth hurt more than Michael wanted to admit. Jason walked toward Chloe, grinning broadly. Go ahead, he said proudly. It's yours. Chloe looked down at the keycard in his hand, but didn't reach for it. Vanessa stepped closer gently. You deserve better than struggling your whole life, sweetheart. Michael felt the hidden meaning inside that sentence immediately. So did Chloe. Jason laughed loudly. Your dad's old school. Nothing wrong with that. But successful people think bigger. Michael stayed quiet. Not because the comment didn't bother him. Because Chloe deserved one normal graduation day without conflict. Then Vanessa leaned closer toward Chloe, lowering her voice slightly. Unfortunately for her, Michael still heard every word. You don't want your future looking like your father's, she said softly. He's a good man, but he never had vision. Michael's stomach tightened painfully. Vanessa kept going. Look at him standing there in that old suit. You've outgrown this life, Chloe. For a moment, the entire parking lot noise seemed distant. Michael looked away instinctively toward the crowd because humiliation felt strangely harder after surviving cancer. Not the insult itself. The fact she said it in front of their daughter. Then Michael noticed something change in Chloe's face. Her expression didn't look hurt anymore. It looked calm. Cold calm. The dangerous kind. Michael suddenly remembered the day a boy shoved another student in middle school and Chloe broke his nose with a cafeteria tray 30 seconds later. His daughter rarely exploded emotionally, but when she finally reached her limit, things usually ended badly for whoever caused it. Jason stepped forward again, smiling into his live stream. This is what winning looks like, people. Chloe slowly reached out and took the Tesla keycard from his hand. The crowd nearby murmured excitedly. Jason grinned wider immediately. Vanessa relaxed visibly, but Chloe still hadn't smiled once. Instead, she turned slowly toward Michael, and the second their eyes met, a strange nervous feeling settled into his chest. Because suddenly, he realized something important. Chloe Bennett was done staying quiet. The parking lot outside Broadmoor World Arena had grown strangely quiet. Not completely silent. Cars still moved through traffic lanes. Families still laughed nearby, taking graduation photos. Somewhere across the lot, somebody blasted country music from a truck stereo. But around Chloe Bennett, the atmosphere shifted. People sensed tension the way animals sense storms. Jason Mercer still grinned confidently beside the black Tesla Model S Plaid while holding his phone toward the livestream audience. This, he announced dramatically, is what hard work gets you. Chloe looked down at the keycard resting in her palm. Then she slowly lifted her eyes. Can I say something first? Jason laughed. Of course. Big mistake. Chloe turned away from the Tesla and faced the small crowd gathering nearby instead. Parents holding flowers paused mid-conversation. Several teenagers lowered their phones slightly, suddenly more interested in the tension than the car itself. Michael stood near the curb, gripping Chloe's bouquet tighter without realizing it. For a moment, Chloe looked nervous. Then something inside her settled. Thank you for the gift, she began carefully. Vanessa smiled immediately. Jason nodded proudly. But I can't accept it. The entire mood changed instantly. Jason blinked twice, like his brain needed time to process the sentence. Vanessa gave a short, uncomfortable laugh. Chloe, sweetheart. No, Chloe interrupted quietly. Please let me finish. Her voice wasn't loud. That somehow made it more powerful. People nearby stopped walking entirely now. Chloe looked down briefly at the Tesla keycard before continuing. My dad drove me everywhere in that old Highlander over there. She pointed toward Michael's aging Toyota Highlander, parked several rows away. The contrast between the two vehicles felt painfully obvious. One shiny and new. One faded and worn. Chloe's voice steadied. He drove me to school, debate tournaments, doctor appointments, hospitals. Michael felt his throat tighten immediately. 3 summers without working air conditioning, Chloe continued, because fixing it cost too much at the time. Vanessa's smile disappeared completely now. Jason slowly lowered his phone. You left when he got cancer, Chloe said directly to her mother. The words landed hard enough to physically change the atmosphere around them. Nearby conversation stopped completely. Michael saw strangers glance awkwardly between him and Vanessa. Chloe kept going. He was throwing up at 2 a.m. and still waking up early to make sure I got to school on time. Vanessa crossed her arms defensively. This isn't appropriate. Chloe ignored her completely. He missed sleep, meals, work, everything. Her voice cracked slightly then. But he never missed one thing for me. Michael looked down immediately because hearing it out loud hurt in a way he couldn't explain. It was true. Every scan day, every school meeting, every birthday, every moment that mattered. He showed up. Even terrified. Even exhausted. Even when his body felt broken. Vanessa stepped closer, lowering her voice sharply. You're embarrassing me. Chloe stared at her calmly for several seconds. Then she answered quietly. I was embarrassed a long time ago. Complete silence followed. Even Jason looked uncomfortable now. Chloe lifted the Tesla keycard slightly between 2 fingers. This car is beautiful, she said. But it can't buy back the years you disappeared. Vanessa's face flushed red instantly. Chloe, stop this right now. No. For the first time all afternoon, Chloe sounded genuinely angry. You missed birthdays, panic attacks, scan days, Christmases. Then she pointed toward Michael. He sold his fishing boat so I could stay in school. Michael's chest tightened sharply. He hadn't even known she remembered that. Jason suddenly stepped forward, trying to laugh the situation away. Come on, kiddo, he said awkwardly. It's just a car. Chloe turned toward him immediately. Exactly. Jason's smile faded. Which makes it really weird that you thought it could replace being a parent. Several people nearby visibly reacted to that one. Michael actually heard someone whisper, Damn. Jason's expression darkened instantly. All right, he snapped quietly. That's enough. But Chloe wasn't finished. She looked directly at her mother one final time. You abandoned him when life became inconvenient, she said. And now you're trying to buy your way back into the picture because I turned out successful anyway? Vanessa opened her mouth to respond. Nothing came out. For the first time in years, Michael watched his ex-wife completely lose control of the situation. No clever excuse. No emotional performance. No way to redirect the truth. Just silence. And standing there beneath the hot Colorado sun, Michael suddenly realized something unexpected. His daughter had been carrying this pain alone for years. For several long seconds, nobody moved. The parking lot outside Broadmoor World Arena felt suspended in uncomfortable silence, while Chloe's words settled over everyone standing nearby. Jason Mercer recovered first. Unfortunately for him, he recovered badly. He forced out a stiff laugh and reached toward Chloe with his hand extended. Okay, he said tightly. Enough public drama. Give me the key card. Chloe didn't move. Jason stepped closer. irritation flashing openly across his face now. "I said give it here." Finally, Chloe held the Tesla keycard out toward him. Jason grabbed for it too quickly. And then fate decided the moment needed one final insult. The card slipped directly through his fingers. Clink. The sound echoed sharply as the Tesla keycard bounced once against the pavement and disappeared straight through the metal grate of a nearby storm drain. Everybody froze. Jason stared downward in horror. "No," he whispered. A teenage boy standing nearby immediately burst into laughter. Then another parent laughed. Then several more. Within seconds, people all around them were openly reacting. Oh my God. Did that seriously just happen? Bro dropped the Tesla keys. Jason dropped to his knees beside the drain, wearing a cream-colored designer suit that probably cost more than Michael's monthly mortgage payment. "This is unbelievable," he snapped angrily while trying to shove his arm between the metal bars. Meanwhile, his live stream continued running. Michael heard somebody whisper nearby. His whole audience just watched him lose the car keys. That nearly broke Michael. He bit the inside of his cheek so hard trying not to laugh that his jaw hurt. Jason kept struggling uselessly beside the drain while sweat darkened the collar of his expensive shirt. Vanessa looked seconds away from exploding. "This is humiliating," she hissed. Chloe folded her arms calmly. "No," she answered quietly. "What was humiliating was watching Dad fight cancer alone while you disappeared." Vanessa turned sharply toward Michael then, desperation finally cracking through her polished image. "This is your fault," she snapped. "You poisoned her against me." The accusation hung in the air. 3 years earlier, that sentence would have shattered Michael emotionally. Now something unexpected happened inside him instead. Stillness. Not anger. Not fear. Just clarity. Because for the first time since his diagnosis, Michael realized he truly wasn't afraid of Vanessa anymore. Not of her opinions. Not of her judgment. Not even of losing her. He looked directly at her while Jason continued fumbling beside the storm drain behind them. "No," Michael said calmly. Vanessa stared at him. Michael took a slow breath. "I spent years protecting Chloe from the truth," he continued quietly. "I just stopped lying." That hit harder than yelling ever could have. Vanessa's mouth opened slightly, but no response came out. Because deep down, she knew he was right. Michael had protected her constantly. He never told Chloe about the nights he cried alone after chemotherapy. Never explained how much money Vanessa actually took. Never described the humiliation of being abandoned while sick. He spent years softening reality so Chloe could still love her mother. But children eventually saw the truth anyway. Jason finally stood back up looking furious and embarrassed. "Can we leave already?" he snapped at Vanessa. Nobody answered him. Chloe walked slowly toward Michael instead. Then, just like she used to as a little girl crossing busy parking lots, she reached down and took his hand. That simple gesture nearly destroyed him emotionally. "Let's go home, Dad," she said softly. Michael nodded once. Behind them, Jason cursed loudly after nearly dropping his phone into the storm drain too. Several teenagers openly recorded him now. One woman nearby actually clapped quietly. Vanessa stood frozen beside the Tesla, looking smaller somehow. Not physically, emotionally. Like the performance had finally collapsed and left only the truth behind. She called after Chloe once. "Chloe, wait." Chloe never turned around. Neither did Michael. Together, they walked slowly across the parking lot toward the aging Toyota Highlander sitting beneath the hot Colorado sun. The faded paint still looked terrible. The rear taillight was still cracked. The air conditioning still barely worked. But for the first time in years, Michael didn't feel embarrassed by that vehicle at all. Because while Jason and Vanessa stood beside luxury they didn't emotionally deserve, Michael realized something far more important. The person who mattered most had chosen him anyway. A strange thing happened after graduation. Life kept going. Michael Bennett half expected some dramatic emotional ending after everything that happened in the parking lot outside Broadmoor World Arena. Some huge moment of closure where years of hurt suddenly disappeared. Instead, the next week mostly involved paperwork. Dorm checklist, financial aid forms, laundry, Costco runs. That was real life, apparently. The video of Jason Mercer dropping the Tesla keycard into the storm drain spread around social media much faster than Michael expected. Somebody clipped the live stream footage and uploaded it online. For nearly 2 weeks, half of Colorado Springs seemed to recognize them. One HVAC customer opened the front door laughing before Michael even introduced himself. "You're Tesla graduation girl's dad, right?" Michael seriously considered turning around and leaving. Chloe hated the attention even more. "People are weird," she muttered one afternoon after a woman stopped her in a grocery store just to say, "Good for you, honey." But underneath the embarrassment, Michael noticed something else, too. Relief. Like Chloe had finally stopped carrying something heavy inside her chest. Vanessa texted several times after graduation, at first angry, then defensive, then emotional. One message read, "I made mistakes, but I'm still your mother." Chloe stared at the message quietly before locking her phone and placing it face down on the kitchen counter. "She always says mistakes," Chloe said softly. Like she forgot to mail a birthday card or something. Michael didn't know how to answer, because betrayal changed shape over time. At first it felt sharp. Eventually, it became heavy instead. By August, move-in day at Colorado State University finally arrived. Michael wasn't emotionally prepared for it at all. The night before leaving, Chloe stayed awake until almost midnight, labeling storage bins while old rock music played softly from her phone upstairs. Every few minutes, she randomly announced terrifying observations about college life. "If my roommate owns a ukulele, I'm transferring. Dorm mattresses probably contain diseases." Michael laughed harder that night than he had in months. After Chloe finally went upstairs to sleep, he walked through the house turning off lights and noticed yellow sticky notes everywhere. On the refrigerator, "Don't forget breakfast sometimes." On the coffee maker, "Use actual filters this time." On the bathroom mirror, "Take your medication." Michael smiled at each one until he reached the final note near the garage door. "Love you more than football season." That one almost destroyed him. The drive to Fort Collins passed quietly beneath wide Colorado skies and endless highway mountains. Halfway there, Chloe suddenly looked over from the passenger seat. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "If Mom contacts you again because of me, you don't have to protect her anymore." Michael kept his eyes on the road for several seconds. "I wasn't protecting her." Chloe gave him a look that clearly said, "You absolutely were." And maybe she was right. Part of Michael had spent years trying to preserve some softer version of Vanessa for Chloe's sake. But children eventually saw reality, no matter how carefully adults edited it. Move-in day itself felt chaotic and emotional. Parents hauled mini fridges through crowded dorm hallways, while nervous freshmen pretended not to panic. After unpacking everything, Michael and Chloe stood awkwardly beside her dorm bed, not knowing how to say goodbye properly. Then Chloe hugged him tightly. Not quickly. Not politely. The kind of hug that carried years inside it. "I'll be okay," she whispered. Michael nodded against her shoulder. "I know." The drive home felt unbearably quiet afterward. No music upstairs. No sarcastic comments during weather reports. No half-finished tea mugs near the sink. For the first few days, Michael kept almost calling her name before remembering she wasn't there anymore. Then came the surprise. One Saturday morning, Michael finally brought the aging Toyota Highlander into a repair shop near South Nevada Avenue because the air conditioning had nearly stopped working completely. The mechanic checked the computer and frowned. "You already paid." Michael blinked. "What?" The mechanic turned the screen toward him. "Paid in full. Customer note: make sure the AC works perfectly." He never spends money on himself. Michael stared silently. Your daughter? The mechanic asked with a smile. Michael nodded once because suddenly his throat stopped working. Later that afternoon, he picked up the Highlander. Cold air blasted immediately from the vents. Michael sat in the parking lot for several long seconds, just letting the cool air hit his face. Then he flipped down the sun visor. A folded note slipped into his lap. Dad, you spent years protecting me from storms I didn't even know were happening. Now let me take care of you for once. Love, Chloe. Michael cried right there inside the repair shop parking lot, beside a gas station and a taco restaurant. Not quietly either. Full, ugly crying. Because cancer had taken many things from him. His health for a while. His marriage, permanently. The future he thought he understood. But sitting there inside that old Highlander with cold air finally blowing again, Michael realized something important. Illness revealed people. Some loved you only when life was easy. Others stayed beside you anyway. And if you were lucky enough to find someone who stayed during your worst years, you held on to them for the rest of your life.